This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-host, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, or whatever time it is you're listening.
Right. There is no time or space in consciousness.
No.
We have a great show for you today. Today we are talking about reframing our viewpoints and our stories. There's a lot of chaos and drama in the world today, and what would your life be like without the story about it and without your story about it? So tune in today, stay tuned actually, and discover what a relief it is when you see the bigger picture of what's really going on.
I think this is a really important thing, so we'll have a lot of energy up about this, Joan. But everyone, listeners, if you want to call in, our number is 1-844-390-8255. That's 1-844-390-8255 and become part of the conversation. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And Joan's going to tell us more about different ways you can get a hold of her and me outside of the show.
Yes, you can give Janet a big hug around the shoulders. You can give her a little squeeze around the waist. There's lots of ways to get hold of her. And if you want to just get hold of her online, you can connect with both of us after the show by going to our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. We have our podcasts from our previous shows listed there. You can also access our websites and our blogs. Janet and I put out weekly articles. Janet does a really interesting mix of words on Mondays, and I do an interesting mix of words on Fridays. And then we also hold meetups, and Janet has really fascinating meetups on Tuesdays and on Thursdays in Portland. And then my meetups are around the Puget Sound. I have a really exciting talk coming up on this Saturday in Tacoma. It's about 2017 is the year of realization, and what are you going to manifest? And that's really getting a lot of attention. I also have that same talk on Vashon Island on the 11th of February, and I'm doing a good old regular Conscious Conversations in Bellevue at the main library in Bellevue on this Sunday. And those are really fun conversations as well. Let me see what else. You can also, at that same website, you can connect with us about our sessions. You can, I believe there's links to our Facebook page on there. Our Facebook page is Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. My Facebook page is Joan Marjorie Newcomb, and yours is Janet Barrett. Janet, and then you can also connect with us on Twitter. At Joan and Janet is our Twitter handle, and mine is at Joan M. Newcomb if you want to see inflammatory posts mixed in between with corgis. I do obligatory corgi pictures to temper down the conversation. Oh, and you know what? We're also on YouTube. I keep forgetting to mention, but the show is archived on YouTube if that's your preferred mode. And then every week I put out a YouTube video mystically musing for minutes about things that are going on.
Those are always good. You always have good information up there. So listeners, you can call us at 1-844-390-8255. And we're going to talk about how to look at the energies present in what we're experiencing in life and reframing out of our stories and out of our emotions into new ways so it opens up the potential because we're really seeing how helpful that would be. And when you're doing consciousness technologies and experiencing yourself as consciousness, potential is what it's all about. So it's how to be present, free of your emotions, and how that story will change. So we're going to have a good time today, aren't we, Joan?
Yes.
Yeah.
This reminded me, I mean, the old way of talking about this is that you tend to steer in the direction you're looking. So if you're driving down your path, you tend to veer off to wherever you're looking. And this is really a much more subtle but profound difference, because you actually are creating reality through your perceptions. And so the city will appear if you're staring for a city, but it'll also disappear if you're staring. And that's kind of a weird analogy for it. So when you start...
Well, the mirage, you're talking about the mirage, what you want to have appear. Yeah. And it shows up and then it goes away. Yeah.
Well, because we are actually physically manifesting our thoughts now. So it's a much more potent time.
Right. And we really have to get, we get caught up. And so what Joan and I are talking about is how we get caught up in our story, in those perceptual biases, and we take that as the truth, forgetting that, okay, let's just break this back down to really looking at the energies present and just tracking that way. And then potential is possible. You're back into that state of, oh, okay, I can see where this goes with this and this goes with this. And I just find it so helpful as a validation for people to take the emotion out of it, just relabel, reframe. That's what reframing is, relabeling. And new appreciation comes back in. And I think that's important, Joan. Don't you feel that so many people are just not getting appreciation for how they experience things? And once you provide that, it just opens up stuff.
Well, appreciation helps you appreciate the manifestation is what it is.
Yeah.
Gratitude is a slight variation of that, but
right.
to realize that there are infinite potentials, because when most of us are viewing through a very limited standpoint, and so when we're viewing through our restrictions and our limitations, we don't see all the possibilities out there. So when we get resistant to a certain level of emotion or what activities that provoke that emotion, then we've limited our choices and we've limited what we're actually creating in our lives. So, what you're talking about is that when you can get to a space of appreciation, that actually opens it up to a much broader spectrum. And we were touching base on this just before the show. We were talking about manifestation, and you and I were having very profound observations about manifestation now and how it is different and it is done differently. It feels different in bringing it into form than it has before.
And right now we're seeing certainly in the political arenas, the distractions. And so we have to really give pause and not be in a reactive state there. We have to really be able to stop, look again, and just notice the forces at play. And the challenge is that we can't know all the details. But what we can do is recognize how we're relating to what we're seeing or hearing or being told, and realizing the difference. And without those biases of our story that says we need to react or we can stop a little bit and go, that seems distracting. What's really going on here? What do I really need to pay attention to? And I think it's very helpful because there's so many of us anymore in the world. Everybody has an agenda and everybody has a viewpoint, and we get to look at all those things and go, all right, how am I about this? So, I think pretty much most people's intentions are honorable, and there are certainly those that are not, but that the majority of people, you go, really? Are you going to clump all this together, or are you going to take this apart and really take it on a person-to-person level, which is really what people are looking for. Don't lump me with all of them or with any of them or whether you like the lump or not. Just look and see who I am. And this is why this is important.
Yeah, when you get out of the drama and the storyline, that you can have a life that unfolds differently.
Totally. Well, it's a time for a commercial break so we can come back and get into heart.
That sounds fine for me. So I want to let folks know that you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And stay tuned. We'll be coming right back and talking about reframing our viewpoints and stories after these messages.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about reframing our viewpoints and our stories.
Yeah. You know, we use this language all the time. Do we need to explain to those who don't use this language what we mean by reframing? I did that a little bit, but is there anything you wanted to add?
Oh, it's hard to say because it is kind of commonplace language in the world, but do people realize how they view the world through slides? It's a little bit like putting on glasses that are running a different virtual reality glasses that are running a different movie than what's really in front of you. And so when you can stop that story and see what is, or see what is from a bigger perspective, which is really what we're bringing to it, is to see it from a much more bigger experience, then you can have a different outcome in your life.
I think it's just about bringing, and that's what I was talking about, appreciation is, I notice with people, is like, okay, they give what their experience is being, and you stop and you go, okay, so that means you're choosing as consciousness to experience this way. And what are you getting out of it? And you just, it's kind of stops it all. It gets, immediately opens you up to that bigger picture as consciousness, and you go, oh, I see what I'm doing. I see how I've been doing this. And people always have their answers. Very rarely do I hear, I don't know. And when I hear someone who says, I don't know, I look at that, because that can be a defense, and it can be unclarity, and it can be lots of different things. And you go, okay, well, what's under the I don't know? And, invariably, I would say 99% of the time, people I work with, and in myself and in group, we certainly see this, that there is information there that we just haven't recognized or stopped to recognize. So that's kind of what we're looking at and how important it is, because we get in our heads wrapped up And we forget the bigger picture a lot of times. So, shall we go to heart and see what shows up?
Yes, that's great.
All right, everybody. So just allow that part of yourself that can be paying attention in whatever you're doing in this moment and join along with us. And just take a couple of breaths of awareness and let go of the day or the night or whatever your experience is, and just bring your awareness into yourself a little bit. And start with your heart. That just makes it easy. Gives you a place to focus to. There we go. And just be appreciative and grateful that it's telling you that you're alive. And thank it for all its hard work. And what if that work could be easier? So as we let go of some of the strains we put on our hearts. Okay, there we go. And the second meaning of heart, in the deepening awareness, is the emotional train. And a lot of what we're going to do today is talk about emotions in some way or another, because they do provide our framework often. So just notice what emotions might be up and around. I'm sure you have more than one going. Allow it to just kind of settle out, separate out. There we go. And stop and allow yourself to notice. We create a lot of stuff to keep us too busy so we don't have to notice. And this work is all about appreciating that what is in your truth and your authentic voice is vital. And life's a lot easier when you can be present and notice what's going on. Because everything is subject to change. And then there's that third meaning of heart, the core essence of all. And this is where we slip into the infinite sea of potential. And you and I are one. And we have full of all those photons of light. Some biophotons, which have a little bit of mass to them, are minerals and metals and all that stuff. And then the resonances and frequencies and vibrations of the world looked at from a quantum perspective. And then there's the information, the stories. And what you might notice in your sense is things starting to soften, which is perfect. Because we're actually a big collection of fuzzy photons. And they're fuzzy because they're all moving around. There we go. Where you and I are one. Where we are all one. No matter what it looks like. No matter what we're told. We are all one. And as we start to reframe from that position, instead of separateness, things can start to be different. A moment of enlightenment, the epiphany can happen. So if we allow everything to just be potential, so nothing is energy yet, it's just elements of. And then there's energy where something potential has formed and become something that we can label. Just notice that. And you may find something in yourself that's just letting go, loosening up, not what you thought it was. And you're going to shift your thinking from your mindsets to collective as consciousness. All right. And that right brain that's full of the global pictures, etc., is connected to this space, where your left brain, structure building. So we're encompassing whole brain thinking here, feeling, perception, being. This is all about being. So just notice how you're being. All right, John, what you noticing?
I love your distinction between potential, which isn't energy yet, and then energy, which is what we're perceiving as reality.
Yeah.
And so I was having a good time tripping the light fantastic on that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, everything comes and goes, you know. I mean, I think as consciousness, everything forms and then it dematerializes and then it shows up again in some other way, or it's the same. I don't know. It's like that blinking of the eye, you know. Did I see it? Was it real? Wasn't it real? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like using sort of an Abraham Hicks metaphor is ordering off the menu. So we have our choice of anything is available to us, and we often just, you know, take whatever is illustrated on the picture of the menu and not really what we'd like to be really sinking our teeth into.
I wonder if it's I love how you put that in restaurants, you know, when you can do a la carte and you order off the menu, all the different items, make your own sandwich or whatever it might be. I wonder how many people really enjoy that, or it's easier to just pick the sandwich that's already described.
Yes. That's, you know, I bet there are different personalities who just accept what's already, they don't have the imagination, they'll just take that, or, you know, or the ones that, you know, are kind of like Sally, and when Harry met Sally and with her description of this, she wants it on the side with a different kind of lettuce and all that.
Yeah.
Kind of stuff.
Well, all of them are okay. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, the made sandwich may have elements in there that you weren't sure about. So it's a new way to try something. Or the creativity that comes of, let me put this all together. So both approaches work. It's just dependent upon what you're, allowing yourself to enjoy, you know. And for those of us who cook all the time, sometimes it's nice just give me that, you know. I don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Well, it makes me realize how we create our reality, how we manifest reality, how we experience reality. Mm-hmm. This is about reframing stories and viewpoints.
Totally.
And you can be very specific and intentional, which is like constructing your own sandwich, down to the point of, you know, what kind of, is it mayo, or is it
light mayo or Miracle Whip?
Miracle Whip, that's what I was trying to remember. And you know, those are a very specific way of constructing reality, or realizing that you are consciousness, and as consciousness, you're creating this reality down to the smallest detail. And when you just sort of relax and enjoy it, you can experience something bigger than you could have imagined, because your imagination is coming from limited viewpoints.
Well, I think what you're also articulating is about control. And how we are we set our biases so we're in control. And so, like, do you trust the place that the restaurant, for instance, to provide good food? I don't have to worry about it, right? I don't have to itemize all those details. And I think that's probably an interesting, part of this is we do what we do. If you take the judgment out of it and just allow it to be information, and there's no blame in it. And that's so important and critical, because we all have a critical voice. And so often that's what's dictating those perceptual biases. And I think the critical voice is part of I don't know how you separate those so much, you know, if one comes before the other. I haven't really thought about it. But that, so often the critical voice is the one that's directing. And it's like, just a minute, stop. No critical voice. Now what do we notice? That's powerful. Who are we without that critical voice?
Yeah. Yeah, I I've talked for many years about gremlin voices or automatic negative thoughts, and it just hit me the other day. I mean, automatic negative thoughts, we actually do have a cluster of cells on the left side of our brain that is responsible for organizing things. And it also absorbs all the programming from the moment we popped out about how to be safe in the world, how to be socially acceptable, and all those things. And so that's the critical voice we carry around, and that's why it often sounds like a parent. And it gets triggered or stimulated also when you are about to make a big, bold, expansive change or transformation, and it starts yapping like a rabid chihuahua. Because in its little tiny thinking is that you won't be safe if you cross the road without your mom. What I didn't realize is, our bodies are our vehicles for this reality, in this lifetime, in this experience of time and space. Our bodies are our cars, and that little cluster of cells is kind of the GPS in this reality. And so, are you going to just let your GPS steer you around based on history? Or, making a different choice and not listening to the stories about your life, but seeing the bigger picture of what it is.
Oh, I love all that. I think what I was catching, when you did the setup and you said it was going to be a big change, etc. And I went, now just a minute, if we take the judgment off of that, because that voice is set, so it could be something minute and it won't allow it because it has a sense of the bigger picture itself. And if I change there, this whole big picture. So we're never going to go there. And so it is in the details sometimes. It's like, okay, if we just tweak this state a little bit, and big things can happen down the line, and we know that because we do this work all this time. It's not about having to do the big thing, it's just in the little thing, and stuff will happen and play out. And so so sometimes we have to, we're retraining all the time and taking our own judgments out of these things and in our reframe. Yes,
exactly. And because our judgments are all part of that.
Yeah.
And, just opening up to the bigger picture, then you can be delighted in what shows up. You were talking about appreciation, and I realized that appreciation is the experience that consciousness has here in the world. It appreciates what it has created. It has an immense appreciation for what it has created. And also appreciation is the essence of prosperity and abundance, because when you go to a restaurant, you express appreciation for the food that you're given, and you express appreciation for the waiter or waitress who's doing, the server who is providing the food. And then when somebody pays you for something that you're doing, they're expressing appreciation for the service or the actions that you did for them. So when you shift from the judgment to appreciation, it expands your ability to have it.
Yeah, I think that's very important. We set up all these boundaries because it's easy. It makes life easy. We don't have to think about something anymore, or we just assume. And assumption is a tremendous power we all have. And I don't think that gets the appreciation that how at play it is. We assume all the time without any foundation based on anything other than our perceptions. And when those perceptions are wired, and we've set this up to experience a certain experience in a certain context, we can almost be sabotaging us for having any other kind of experience. And wow, there's a lot of energy there because I got lost.
And I just remembered something I was going to bring up earlier, but when you go into heart space, we're on the raft, we're floating down the river, and you and I are sometimes our little rafts bump together, and sometimes we go apart. Yeah. And now, wait, I'm just starting to lose what I was going to say. Shoot.
It'll probably show up. Listeners, this is what happens. So often, because Joan and I do this in group all the time. You access heart, and whatever you thought was the deal is not the deal because it just kind of falls apart. So we start someplace. That's the best we can hope for. What, did you find it?
It's kind of half gone now, but it was sort of similar to what you just said. I think I might have wanted to touch base about drama in the story. If the story is really dramatic, there is a lie in there.
Explain that.
When you are having a really strong emotional reaction to something, more than likely you're triggered by something that's not really presently in front of you. And also you find groups of people or family constellations that will also be really dramatic, over the top, and everything is a crisis. And it's because everyone is operating off of their post-traumatic stress or their, and so I have come to realize that if it's really super dramatic, then not to react dramatically, because it is not the truth what's going on. Either my slides and pictures and memories are up and I'm not viewing it correctly, or their slides and pictures are making them bounce off the wall. When I'm in heart space, you are not in that drama. It's suddenly this open and expansive and accepting, and you have more choice available to you because you're not running like a chicken with your head cut off. So that was, I think, the thing is that we've got a really dramatic lot of storylines going on out there, especially nowadays. And those storylines are not the truth about reality.
Or they're that illusionary reality, or reality is illusionary anyway, but that, it's the illusion of the illusion.
Reality the other part that I was going to say is, and I probably say this every show, but the other thing is that as you operate as consciousness, wacky things do tend to happen, or unexpected, or outside the box, because you kind of go off script, and the world becomes more improvisational. The world becomes more spontaneous, and you can turn or change on a dime. So everything we're seeing this week could be completely different next week.
No, yeah, that's a good point. And it's kind of so then you start to encode that in your ability to reframe. That's part of the fun, the silliness, the profound. It's that things can be different. And if I allow myself to be surprised, and a lot of people don't like surprises because they're more control oriented, or they're more story controlled oriented. Let's maybe put it that way. So if in your news story, because there's always going to be a story, there's always going to be a pattern of some sort. So if you encode into the new pattern that, oh, how delightful is this? I wasn't expecting that. And that's coming from a place of that positioning as opposed to, oh, I wasn't expecting that, which is a totally different place. So you go back to, oh, if I could re-encode this into, wow, look at that. Then that story is morphing. It's changing. And you and I deal in reality mindsets all the time about how to, here you are in this reality, and this is your experience, and you want something different. So we do a parallel life experience. We can change the reality set, mindset, and how to engineer that. And both you and I use that a lot. And it's, that's a reframing in itself. Is, okay, here you are in this picture frame, and this is the painting. And what if we took those elements and we put it over here? So you go from a picture that's a Van Gogh and you change it into a Monet. Same elements, but two different artists. And you go, oh, okay, maybe I like that better than that one. And you take the price off and you take the title off. It's just what you're looking at is the different style, the different appreciation each artist had for the elements and how he constructed them and put them together. And, we're all Matisse. And we like vibrant colors or whatever it might be. Some of us are Salvador Dali's out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, show me the Monet.
Yeah, really.
And actually what I was thinking as you were talking, that you when you start to operate at this level of consciousness and unexpected things happen, you find out that you do have a Degas, hanging on your wall that your aunt got from a garage sale in Schenectady. And, because things like that people have found, lost art treasures in a trunk in the basement kind of thing. And reality is in the process of coming into form all the time. So you can have, plot changes and twists. Mm-hmm. You're not stuck to the prescribed storyline. And it also doesn't have to take a really long time for it to happen either.
No, I think you just have to be willing to allow yourself to have a different experience. And, we don't like to be bored. And people tend to view life in terms of satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And so if you experience a lot of dissatisfaction in your life, that's the need for reframing. Because that's what appreciation and gratitude and compassion and all those things are about. So if you're experiencing dissatisfaction, then you're out of alignment within your heart-centered awareness. And all it takes is to do what we do here, is just take a moment, allow yourself to be present, and in this state, as consciousness, you see all the elements. It goes back to elements, right? It's like the painting with all the elements in it. And it just kind of comes apart. And you can reframe, reorganize, and allow for new outcomes. Now, that's not to say that you're trying to change something in order to change something. It's in talking with yourself and understanding that we are always unfolding as consciousness. It's always unfolding. The universes are expanding. They're not condensing, they're expanding. And we're in that also. So it's in our nature to quest, to go out, because that's what curious is. It'll lead you to a new place, don't you think?
Yeah, as consciousness, you're naturally curious, you're naturally playful, you're inquisitive. Mm-hmm. This world is an adventure in density and effort. It is a playground. Mm-hmm. It's not a school. So all of those things are indicators that you're operating from that broader perspective.
Well, and when you do the reframing, it changes the conditions, because conditions dictate results. And the way the mind works, you're only going to have so many results available to you based on what the conditions are. So if you can change how you've interpreted the conditions, it allows for new outcomes, new results. And we just see marvelous things, you and I, happening for people all the time, for ourselves and for our clients and for our family and friends. When people allow themselves to reframe, they allow themselves to be a little different than the expectations. And it gets into all that, definitely.
Yeah. And when people reframe, they realize that the thing they wanted is right in front of them all the time. They just hadn't seen it before because they were too busy complaining about some aspect.
Well, we do that. It's easy to just say, what I don't have. I don't have it. And then you get into the state of, well, I don't have it, not the state of, well, I do have it. I just don't have it as much as I'd like. Well, if you got it a little bit, just go with that. I have what I want. You can honestly say, I do have what I want. Now, your follow thought might be, oh, but I don't get it when I want it. And that's the different state, right? And so, okay, those are two separate things going on there. And so you learn how to reframe, take these things apart back to the energies, and see how you compiled and created this compilation, because pretty much I think any issue or thought is a compilation of different moments in it. Whoa.
Hello.
Oh, hello. Someone's paying attention.
Right, exactly.
Now what do we do?
Some message from the universe. What do you think it's saying?
I have no idea. It could be about time. It could be about anything. So I'm sure we'll hear it again if we need to, since we always have bells and whistles in this house, about the universe chiming in. I think that's what that was. So now that I don't remember what we were talking about. But.
It was probably an expression of appreciation from the universe.
We'll put it that way. So what else do we notice about reframing? It's a vital skill.
Yes.
It's something we don't think about. Most of us, if we're lucky, come into it at some point in our lives. And this is what we want you as listeners to be aware of. You at any moment can stop and reframe and take it out of the personal little self and get to the bigger picture and go, if I knew those elements that at play, what would be different? Would I do something different? And it's just making this real, taking the time to go, okay. And I think there's some people that do this internally all the time. And then there's people that never question anything. And then there's the myriad of everything in between. But, anymore I don't know that I take things at face value. It's just a face to me. And it allows me to go, what do I want to know about that? So.
Yeah, and, reframing and shifting your viewpoint can ease you into having whatever you want, or having ease you into being willing to have a bigger experience in the world. So if you look around at people who are not happy, they're in those fixed viewpoints. And then their solution is to try to change, fix, and manipulate the reality out in front of them. And that's about as effective as, moving the set around on a stage. It hasn't really changed your reality. So, let me see. Speaking of changing reality and shifting gears, we are going to stop for a commercial break, but you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and stay tuned. We're talking about reframing our viewpoints and stories when we come right back.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about reframing our viewpoints and stories. I just reframed time and space. How are you doing?
I'm just enjoying the quiet. This is a real shift from when we started, that's for sure, and myself, definitely. Time and space have a place in the human experience. They don't have much meaning, I think, in consciousness framework. And that's true. Okay, so there you got two different frameworks, how they blend, how you go back and forth between one and the other. Everything is in a framework. So our thoughts, our lives, which are a culmination of all these frameworks that we have. And so where do we start, Joan? Is there something you could suggest for people to reframe as just a practice to do? I know we didn't talk about that before, but you always have wonderful technique.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the main thing that I always talk to people about reframing is their sense of who they are and how they view the world, and to realize that you are bigger than your body and your personality and the story that's going on in your life or in the world. And so you just by shifting your viewpoint to that you are actually an expanded being, you are consciousness, you are bigger than the storyline just operating within this physical form, it shifts your way of seeing everything around you and opens you up to new possibilities.
Well, we certainly see this in group for people who come regularly. You know, we access heart, we look at what's going on, and we access heart. And there is so much, you know, everybody in the groups, we're pretty aware of how empathic being that we can sense other energies beyond our own and how that fits into the collective, and we all have a place and we all have an interpretive viewpoint of what that feels, but we can have collective awareness about something. And so in that context, we are really empowering our awareness that we make a difference. And I wrote this week about the importance of feeling important, that in us clearing and articulating in some way, in noticing, which is an articulation, whether it's verbal or visual or perceptual, it's perceptual of some sort, that our interaction affects and changes, and it ripples out. And as we hold that reframing of our own ability to be, and whether you call it divine or however you want to frame it, I love the word wonder. And when we all have our sense of consciousness, which is what wonder is to me, that it makes a difference. We are valuable. Our hand is counted. And we feel that. We feel the change and the opening that happens. And so we really embrace that about ourselves. So we're all reframing how we view little old each of us. And it's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is.
Well, you do that in your groups, you know, you're noticing that all the time.
Yes, it's fun. My groups are very improvisational, and we have these conscious conversations, but I never set topics for those group conversations because the topics arise from whoever shows up.
Yeah.
And then once or twice a month, I will have a specific thing that I am talking about, and that's kind of a different animal. But life is improvisational now, and it's a wonderful experience that I'm finding living life as consciousness is that you really realize that it's a benevolent universe.
Yeah. We're all very, we can have our dust ups day to day, and it's this constant reframing that we do, most from our past. This is the way I would look at this, right? And then, okay, so what's your fallback position? How are you looking at it that way? And then, well, what are you aware of now? And those could be 3 different states of awareness. And it's always now, though, that's the key. And when you turn that key, everything opens up. And, everything comes in a spectrum state because consciousness is about a spectrum. It has no limits. It just keeps expanding. So we're the same way. And this is what we're connecting to in our reframing is that, oh, I thought it was this. Oh, it's not that anymore. Oh, well, what might it be in the future if it's not that now? And we really play with time. You really play with space. And we just realize that it's all about focal points, wherever you put your attention.
Yes.
And
And actually, thanks for reminding me about focal points, because your main focal point is in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not sitting in your car, you can't get your car to go places. If you are not sitting at home, the Universal Parcel Service can't bring you what you want. So your starting point, your focal point is actually in your physical form, and then manifestation takes place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's about that time to remind folks how to stay in touch with us after the show.
They can do that.
Yes, they can. And we like you to do that.
Yeah, we do. We love to hear from all of you out there. And challenge us and support us and however it might be, because Joan and I do this as a way to let everyone know in our rippling out effect that you can be okay with whatever's going on out there in the world.
Right. And if you want to know anything about us, all our information is at ConsciousConversationsWithJoanandJanet.com. And just a heads up that I am going to be in Tacoma on Saturday the 4th, doing a special talk on realization in this world and manifestation in this year. And then I have a conscious conversation in Bellevue on Sunday at the downtown library. And next week, we will be talking about power and force as consciousness. We're seeing great examples of the old paradigm uses of force and power. Yet as consciousness, we are infinitely powerful. So tune in next week to experience a new way of using energy and being empowered.
And I think that's a conversation that's really, we all respond differently to those words. And that's the old paradigm. And so that's what we're looking at, how to maybe align your new sense of self, not necessarily matching the old paradigm, but into the new state of awareness. So you are the most powerful being in your universe. So you can retain your own sense of authority and power regardless of what is going on outside in the world. All right. That's the important. Yeah. I'm feeling important. What would it be like if each of us felt important in our world and in other worlds? Well, don't settle for just this one. Like Joan says, you have to be present. And we're present on many different levels and different degrees about things. So we each hold the viewpoint. So we matter. We definitely matter.
Yeah, we are omnipresent. We are, and that's what's going on in the world today is each of us are becoming more empowered, and the disempowering things seem like they're really strong right now, but that's because they're really loud, just in the way that a 2-year-old's having a temper tantrum sounds really, really loud. They're actually the least powerful person necessarily in the room, but within their world, they have their own power. So it's going to be a really juicy topic. And anything else as we're sliding into home here?
Be kind to yourself, everyone.
Yeah. Take this feeling with you out into the world, this wonderful heart space.
Yeah. Be kind.
Yeah, well, you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett, and thank you so very much. We so enjoy being with you.
Tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.